Hey everyone, it's Pico from Daydream Nation, and I've got John Clauser back to the channel. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good, mate. How about you?
Not too bad, not too bad at all. Today we are going to do a rock postcards. I have sent an exercise across to John to do a review on the 1984 debut album from Jimmy Barnes, Bodyswerve. So John is going to do a deep dive, the good, the bad, the indifferent, and we just talk Barnesy. So
Okay.
I'll throw it across to you, John.
All right.
Tell us about Jimmy Barnes
Oh,
and Bodyswerve.
okay. So this came out 1984, I believe, correct? So this was
Yes.
essentially kind of after the breakup of Cold Chisel. Yep. Yeah, your vinyl copy looks a lot better than my than the CD
Great photo.
version. Boy,
Absolute knockout photo.
great photo. But don't try to read these lyrics on this little thing because it is extremely hard to read. But anyway, so Cold Chisel's kind of gone on hiatus, and so this is Jimmy's first solo album. So as I started to listen to this, and Vision kicks on, and my first thought was, okay. It didn't seem maybe in 1984, 1985. If I was hearing this album, I might have thought a little differently. But in 2023, it just didn't seem like a very energetic opening. But the riff is so simplistic, and the music is very simplistic, and the hook was so simplistic, it was like, boink, it started getting in my head a lot. So I'm like, okay, maybe I need to rethink my thought on this song. So I thought it was a good, not the best opener, but it was still a good song. I like Daylight. I love that beginning with the female background vocals. That was nice. I like that.
Yeah,
And then of course,
just a quick shout out to the backup vocals. You've got the great Renee Gayer, one of the great soul singers of Australia, just passed away last year. And also Vanetta Fields, who's legendary. She sang on the Exile on Main Street sessions.
Okay.
So you can hear her vocals everywhere, and she's basically lives in Australia and worked with a lot of artists like John Farnham. Sorry, John, but
Okay.
I love the backup.
Yeah, no, that's
Very soulful.
I didn't check into the names on those ladies, so thank you for saying that. But no, I love that in that song. It fit with that groove, and so I really dug that. And then of course you get this long jam, at the end of the freeform jam, and just the repetitive riff over and over. Promise Me You'd Call. Yeah. There was something about this song and I kind of felt this way about a lot of the songs on this album. I almost felt like I was listening to like Jimmy Barnes leading April Wine. It just kind of, it didn't sound like April Wine songs per se, but it had an April Wine feel. I don't know how else to really explain it. That's just how they felt to me. But it was still had a nice ballad feel. No Second Prize. I thought that was I read the story behind that about a roadie that passed away. And I thought that was, although the beginning of the song, it sounded, I feel like I heard the beginning somewhere before. And my first thought was like, is Bryan Adams' band backing this one up or something? It just sounded like a Bryan Adams song in some way, shape, or form. I don't ask me why.
Yeah, and that was a huge hit in Australia. That was the lead single.
That was
And
okay.
a lot of these songs actually got workshopped in the 20th century sessions with Cold Chisel, but just didn't make it.
Just didn't
So
make the cut.
there
Yeah,
could be a little bit of writer frustration, stockpiling and got to get it out. And here's the solo
sure,
album.
sure. But I like the story behind it. I thought it was
Nice.
a good song. I
Yeah,
enjoyed that one.
nice.
But I think the song that really started getting me into really get my head bobbing was "Boys Cry Out for War." Man, to me, I was like, I dig that feel. I dug the guitar work in it. Almost could hear Sammy Hagar singing this thing for some reason. I don't ask me why. Just kind of had that kind of feel. But that was like a song I really dug. Paradise, Aussie rock and roll boogie, Say No More. Great song. That was a good supercharged song. Um, Sam Cooke's version of Change Is Gonna Come. This I thought worked with Jimmy's voice really well. I liked his arrangement of this. This was a very I enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this song. I could certainly hear Jimmy doing more stuff like this, and um, it made me want to kind of go back to listen to the original Sam Cooke version too. But I thought he really did good with this one. Thick Skin, I like the mandolin there in the mix, so it was a good track. Um, wasn't so crazy about the Piece of My Heart though. To me, it just sounded too safe. It's he pretty much played it straight, play it almost like it was basically like just putting it over Janis Joplin's music and just him singing it for the most part. I didn't think there was anything really different or dynamic to it, in my opinion. So it was, not one of my favorites from the album. Fire, I love that. A great opening. I think musically the song goes very interesting. But I think my favorite track on this album was definitely Worlds on Fire. I think this was definitely to me, this was probably the very strongest track that I really enjoyed the most. I loved the riff. Just a great lyrics. I thought it just was again, I still felt the April Wine feel, but I just thought for an album closer, this one was a great song, and like I said, definitely my favorite off the album. But yeah, you could tell this is rough around the edges a lot. It's there's a lot of repetitive stuff, but it's catchy. Which you don't have to make it ridiculously complex. You could still you could still keep it simple, but you could still make some really good stuff out of it. Lyrics were a little hard to understand sometimes. It wasn't quite as clear as say on the Cold Chisel album, where I think that was just recorded a little bit better. But either way, I thought it was a good album. It just needs to grow on me some more. And I think that's the big thing with me. It just took me a few listens to really let it really grow in and start catching the songs started getting catchy in my head. So
Yeah. No, it's interesting you'd say this because when I first had this album, it didn't grab me straight away, but it's a grower. And
yeah,
in my opinion, it's probably the best out of Jimmy's solo albums because I
wow,
kind of prefer the rough and ready, rough around the edges sounds of this album, comparative to like Working Class Man and Freight Train Heart, which becomes very much smoothed over, American orientated rock. Like in
right,
Working Class Man, he brings in hit makers like Jonathan Cain because he was just so desperate. He wanted to break the American market. Collaborate with Jonathan Cain. He's got the Golden Touch. He's in Journey, and he's had his fingertips on a lot of great hits. And
sure,
that was a huge hit in Australia, but it didn't break through America because it only broke through the lower reaches. And I think the common sort of counter argument about Jimmy Barnes is that America didn't gravitate to Jimmy Barnes because they've got quite a few Jimmy Barnes already. They've got their John Cougar Mellencamp's, they've got their Bruce Springsteens, they've got those American heartland singers, rightly or
yeah.
wrongly. My opinion, Barnesy should have been much bigger, and Cold Chisel should have been uber huge, and it's criminal that they were never able to break through. And a lot of it's to do with the record company not supporting them, getting the wrong tour. And I don't know how many shows we've done, whether we've talked about other Aussie rock bands like Dragon, etc. And it's always the same.
Same story.
They go across. But Barnesy did have a bit more success in America than some of his contemporaries, but like chart success, but it was in the lower reaches. But getting back to this album, I like its roughness. I like its rawness. And I've got to put a shout out for the guitar work of Mal Eastig. Very tasty, very bluesy. It sort of adds to the flavor of the album. I actually will counteract. I like a Piece of My Heart.
Yeah.
I've actually heard Barnesy sing it live, and he rips it. And, you know, if anyone's going to give Janis Joplin a little bit of, you know, sort of competition, Barnesy's going to give it a red hot go. And it's one of those songs where you can actually go nuclear in your voice. And it's all about tension, you know, sort of build up tension, tension, tension. And just, you know, if you're going to show your powerhouse chops as a singer, vocally, you know, the tonality, that's the song for me. But I think it's a great version. I'm glad that you did the shout out to Sam Cooke because he loves soul music. There's a lot of soul in this album, not just with the backup vocals of Renee Gayer or Vanetta Fields, but Jimmy is really displaying his appreciation and love for soul music. And that it came out much more later in his catalogue where he was doing Soul Deep. He has gone through the cover version albums and sort of interpreted old Motown songs and soul songs. So he's a bit of a dual artist. He loves his hard rock. I mean, Cold Chisel was very much rooted with Bad Company or Free or Deep Purple and that sort of genre of music. But Jimmy was very much, you know, loved his soul music, and that was the sort of music he was brought up on. And it just comes out in spades. But I just think I love the roughness, the rawness. And I don't think Jimmy was ever as rough and raw in his solo career. I think this was a bit of an outrider. And as his albums went deeper into the discography, it became much more polished and less rough, so to speak.
Yeah.
Can you sort of understand why this may not have broken in the States? Do you think it was a little bit too rough and raw and maybe too pub rock for America to embrace this album?
Well, I mean, it's on Mushroom Records, so that's not exactly a big time label. So I'm sure, I don't think that certainly didn't seem to help it. But I think there's just, I just felt like there was a lot of stuff here that you were kind of hearing variants in that time period, you know, in the mid 80s that just, you know, like I said, I referenced April Wine, you know, I just feel like there was an April Wine sound, or you have, you know, it's just the way the drums were sounding. I guess there was a lot of stuff that kind of had that same sound and same feel. So it's like, I think it just fell into a melting pot that just didn't quite gel in together, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So
that's
the only thing I could think of.
There is a gated drum sound, which is, you know, that always sort of, when I listen to it with 2020 years.
It's so 80s.
It does put me back to 1984. But like No Second Prize is an outstanding song, and that was just a huge hit in Australia. But do you recall in the day ever hearing a Jimmy Barnes song on the radio in the 80s?
I was not one to listen to the radio, especially top 40 radio. I was too much the metal kid, so I played my cassettes and my albums. I was not much of a radio kid because top 40 radio, I just like you hear the same stuff. It never did much for me. So I just never listened to the radio that much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back then.
Now, you love blues. You've got a very, very much a passion for blues. Do you think if we're introducing this album to folk that haven't heard of Jimmy Barnes per se, Do you think there's a little bit for the blues fan that they would get a kick out of this album?
I could see that. I could see a blues, some blues folks getting into this because you had that kind of that, because some blues singers can be soulful sounding, so you kind of could put the two together, and yeah, I think you could introduce some blues people to this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you think this is an angry album? Because I said earlier that he was workshopping a lot of this in the Cold Chisel era, and for whatever reason, I'm not all fay with the machinations of the band and why some of these songs didn't get, make it to the 20th century or Circus Animals. Um, I kind of feel there's a little bit of anger, a little bit of an up yours in this. I can stand on my own. I don't need a band.
I could kind of hear a little bit of. I think I can hear some of that anger, especially on "Worlds on Fire."
Yeah,
I think that was where I think I really noticed it a lot. But let me think. Maybe "Boys Cry Out for War" might have a little bit, but yeah, I think I could probably get what you're coming from. I probably have to study the lyrics a little bit better.
Yeah,
but yeah, I can see it.
Now Jimmy has a nuclear warhead of a voice, and he can go from a whisper to a scream in a nanosecond. Do you think he's got a lot of control on this album? Do you think the production actually services his voice adequately, or is it just a little bit one note?
I think it's I think he does enough to serve each song. I think he does tend to screech a little bit more than just a normal sing, because I feel like when I was listening to the Cold Chisel album, I didn't remember his voice being so raspy, where it was just constant like that. It's been a little while, so I needed to go back and listen to that Cold Chisel album just to be on the safe side. It just seemed like it was a little cleaner. But again, I could be wrong, but it's just been a while, so you have to forgive me on that. I don't know. I think there were times it may be a little too much, and maybe he could dial it back for some songs. But I don't know. I think it's probably served its purpose. I think for each song for what he was doing.
Yeah, well, I think it's all part of the charm of it being a bit ragged around the edges, because I think the production of this album was Mark Opitz and also Jimmy. And I think Jimmy was allowed to just let loose vocally and just really push the envelope. But I think there's enough variations, light and shade, that he gets to show the natural timbre of his voice. But yeah, you are right. In Cold Chisel, there was a different sort of tonality, almost like a choir boy tonality, where you listen to it and go, "Oh, he's actually singing. He's not going for that rock voice,
right?
Going nuclear,
right?"
And
the only times I think he could have maybe dialed it back would maybe been on the slower songs. I would think like maybe "Promise Me You'll Call." Maybe not so, maybe not so harsh at times. That was a possibility.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it's probably exuberance. It's like, finally I get to do a solo album, and maybe he's just in the excitement. He's just pushing the voice, and that's how it comes out.
Yeah, it just makes my only thing is it makes you wonder just how on earth singers like that can keep going 40 years later, and not lose your voice. Like Brian Johnson and people like that. It just amazes me that these singers can hold that kind of a voice for so long, and you just hope that they're taking care of it.
Absolutely. But look, I think we both agree it's a solid album. As I said, it's my opinion, it's his best solo album. Probably needs a few more listens for you for the penny to drop, but I do much prefer this comparative to his Working Class Man or Freight Train Heart, where it gets a little bit Americanized. And I say Americanized as in smoothed out, so it's much more palatable for FM. But I like this. This is sort of like his last, shout of freedom. This is me, and he's just rocking out, and it's all natural. Mm-hmm. It's not contrived.
Yep.
But maybe the little minor criticism is he's pushing it a little bit too hard, and that may come into some of the criticisms that we've brought forward in the show. I still think, if you want to hear classic Jimmy Barnes singing and you want to hear classic Jimmy Barnes per se, you can't go past Cold Chisel, because that's just sublime.
Yep. And I need to
first 5 or 6 albums.
Yeah, I need to keep going deeper, because I think I just had the one, and I need to go for the others to get my Jimmy Barnes in. So yeah,
absolutely.
Well,
thank you, John. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. You can see John on My Music Corner. Plenty of content. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. We're just coming on 2 years and still going. They said we'd never make it. Well, we're still going, and we're not going away. So there's more content. Please tell us what you think of Jimmy Barnes. What's your favourite song? What's your favourite album or favourite Cold Chisel moment? Love to read your comments. But one thing's for certain, you'll see me and John doing a show on rock, all different types of genres very soon. Cheers.
Cheers.